Welcome to Business and Finance here on Echo Television International. I am Rachel Tanzi, and Nigeria revenue allocation from FAAC have been going down. If we record, in the month of March, we saw a decrease. In the month of April, in the month of March, we were seeing 714 billion naira. In the month of April, we saw it going down to 655 billion naira. However, in the month of May, we have seen an increase and a rise in the revenue allocation that it has gone over to 700 billion naira. And these allocations, we've been seeing a downfall, and this actually means that tax and profit or interest revenue from our petrol have been going low, and every other way that we have generated income that ends up being allocated to the federal government. However, in the month of May, we are seeing that there are factors that have made that have seen to the increase of the revenue in the country. Therefore, we are having revenue allocation going high, way above 722 billion that we started the year with. We're looking at 780 plus billion. Now, the federal account allocation has shed 786.16 billion from the revenue generated by the nation in May 2023 to the federal government, state and local government. Now let's go back to March. We saw 714.629 billion. That was the revenue that the federal government got, the local government, and then the state government council. Down in April, we saw it drop like down to 655.932 billion naira. This was the allocation from the from FAAC to the federal government, the state government, and then the local government council. Now, we got this from a comic issued at the end of the FAAC meeting from June, chaired by the Accountant General of the Federation. Now, the 786.16 billion total distributable revenue comprised distributable statutory revenue of 519.545 billion. Then we have distributable value added tax revenue of 251.607 billion. We have electronic money transfer levy, and we can see that electronic money transfer levy has been going high. So it's not surprising that we have these tax and levies going high, and therefore contributing to the revenue allocation. And for the electronic money transfer levy, we are looking at 14.37 billion naira, and then exchange difference revenue of 0.639 billion. As we're talking about 639 million naira. Now, the total deduction for the cost of collection stood at 38.23 billion, as the total deduction for transfer and refund stood at 163.193 billion, while the balance of the excess crude account was 473.754.75. Now, we were looking at there are prices for cost of collection, and we have refunds and deductions. These are all, of course, we know transaction charges and all of that. We're seeing that after 38.23 billion was removed for collection costs, we're also seeing refunds and other deductions that were made. We are now having that with the money that was able to be allocated to federal government, state, and the local government still stood at 786.161 billion. Now, we have a lot of factors that have contributed to the increase in this revenue that was allocated. We are seeing that there is an increase in the petroleum profit tax, and this simply means that our revenue petroleum wise have gone high. We've seen that we've not, in the past month, we've not been meeting our OPEC quota of 1.8 billion, and I know some months back we went as low as 999,000 barrels, and we have also been seeing a decrease in the price of crude oil per barrel. However, and some months, 2 months back, we saw a situation where we were taken over as the number one in Africa, but we are back topping the chart, and this automatically means that we are having an increase in revenue generated from petroleum. So we are seeing that the petroleum profit tax has been the reason that has contributed to the revenue allocation increase. Now we are seeing oil and gas royalties, value added tax. Now we know that our value added tax are the tax we pay for the goods we consume directly. Now these goods could be the recharge card, the credit cards, and the things we go and get from the market, the finished product, the manufactured product. It could be services, it could be digital products. For every transaction, everything we consume physically or digitally, there are value added tax to it. Now this means that consumption is high in every level. Consumption, be it for digital product, consumption, be it for physical product, and the high, and that's why we're having an increased value added tax that have improved the revenue allocated to the federal government, the state, down to the local government area. Now we have import excise duties increased significantly, while the ETML decreased marginally. Now that's the money transfer levy has have reduced. Now we know that transactions have been taking different forms in the past, where we were having the cash crunch. People were depending largely on money transfer, e-transactions, and all of that. Now we are having more availability of cash, so it only makes sense if we are seeing a decrease in the money transfer levy. Now, amidst all of these up and down in our revenue allocation, in as much as we are having our allocation, this is just for the month of May, going high. There has been a decrease previously. Now it means what states have been generating has been low, because when the allocation coming from the federal government is low, we know that the states have been struggling. We have states we have states that need to get loan. We have states that are not able to pay workers their salary. And of course, this calls for states to start generating their own revenue, so that allocation from the federal government level will be a plus to the state and even the local government council. Now, amidst fuel subsidy removal and all the hardship up and down that Nigerians are going through, we are faced with electricity tariff hike. We're looking at over 30%, 40% to 50% increase in the tariff. We're looking at the tariff plan to price now to go double. If you were getting a unit at 100 naira, you are looking at getting a unit from nothing less than 120, 130 up to 150. We're looking at a 50% increase. Now we have Nigeria Consumer Protection Network has said that the electricity tariff in Nigeria will be increased by 50%. Now this is going to be implemented in the 1st of July. We're talking about entering the month of July and seeing a 50% increase in the tariff price. Now, what does this mean, for a household, for businesses, and every individual that consumes electricity in the country? Now, this means more high cost of living. This means high cost of living because now the challenge we're having now is that energy, when it comes to electricity, we will also be having the challenge of consuming it appropriately. It means the standard of living is definitely going to go high, as we are not done with petroleum, we're not done with gas, we're not done with all of these basic needs in the country that we're seeing. Fuel subsidy gone, we're seeing that the fuel pump prices have gone high, and we know that some businesses have been able to leverage on the fact that there is electricity available. And we're not talking about big industries or mega manufacturers. We're talking about small scale and enterprises that are leveraging on the availability of power supply. Now, if the tariff is going high, it means for such businesses, the cost of production will go high, and therefore the prices of goods will go high. Now, we are talking about a direct inflation to the economy. These are not indirect effects. These are direct effects, because when the price of production goes high, then definitely we are going to see inflation, because it means the price of that finished product is definitely going to go high. What it means for the common man and our household is that the standard of our living is definitely going to go high, as people will find a way to cope and manage power consumption, because the tariff will not be something easy. And we know that we are having the NLC going back and forth saying it's insensitive. The factor, it is one that is inevitable for our power distributing companies, because the reason for this hike in the tariff price is the fact that we are now having floating of our naira, where we are having the INE window determining the price, the value of our naira to dollar, and we have seen that the value of the dollar have been going high. We are having the dollar way higher than the naira, and it just keeps, there is a fluctuation, however it's still at the high side. Now they have let us know, we have our electricity distributing companies letting us know that this is beyond their reach, as the dollar exchange rate to naira is one of the major factors that is contributing to this hike in the tariff plan. Now we're seeing that just in the first quarter of 2023, Nigerians have paid. Yes, we consume power every day, but our consumption have amounted to 244.33 billion just in the first quarter of the year. Now this is coming from the distribution companies in Nigeria, and we have over 11 of them. They have different areas in which they are situated, and they have the jurisdiction of supplying supplying power and electricity at those areas. Now we are seeing that they have made we're looking at 247.33 billion just in the first 3 months of the year 2023. This is a statistics coming from the National Bureau of Statistics. Now, the Bureau explained the revenue generated by the discos rose by 20.81%, despite a drop of 1.74% in supply. Yes, we've been having power outage for some while. We've talked about it. We've seen that power has been going low. However, we are seeing that the distributing companies are still making a 20% increase. We're talking about almost 21, because it's 20.81% increase in the revenue, or put it, the profit they have made with the consumption of electricity in the country. Now this is how much total combined every Nigerian household has spent on electricity just first 3 months of the year 2023. Now with the electricity tariff high, we are looking at more money, more profit, and more revenue generated for these companies. However, the challenge here is, what are the government doing to reduce this hardship? As we have seen, these companies have made it clear that it is beyond their power, because the interest rate is what is determining, the exchange rate is what is determining why there is a hike in tariff. Now it's left for the government to do what is necessary to make sure that we see that the naira is beginning to gain value, and that it's not the exchange rate is not that high that we are seeing this much increase in our tariff price. Now our debt servicing keep rising, and we might want to understand what debt servicing here. Debt servicing precisely refers to the money required to cover the payment of interest on a principal loan. So when we talk about debt servicing, we are talking about the interest on the loans that we have acquired as a country. Now, when we borrow 1 million, we borrow 2 million, trillions, and billions of naira, there are interest on this loan, and these are the debt service. And we are seeing that this service, debt servicing fee is rising to 1.24 trillion naira just in the first quarter of 2023. Now, before we talk more about this debt service, we will see that amidst Nigeria's public debt rising, we are seeing that the Debt Management Office have disclosed that Nigeria's total public debt has risen to $108.3 billion. We're talking about 49.8 trillion naira. Now, we have the Debt Management Office stated that the figure, which includes money owned by the federal government and and state government does not include the federal government 22.7 trillion ways and means advance of the central bank. Now, this has nothing to do with the ways and means that we've gotten from the central bank of 22.7 trillion. We are just talking about federal and state government. This we're talking about public funds. We are not even talking about the international that we've gotten from the World Bank, from China, and from other countries that have lended in the past. We are talking about our public debt rising, and then the service fee for it is there about 1.24 trillion 24 trillion naira. Now, according to data obtained from the Debt Management Office between October and December 2022, Nigeria spent 406.77 billion naira on domestic debt servicing. Now, we're talking about debt service just for our domestic debt. We're seeing while it spent 307 and $12.23 million on external debt servicing, giving a total of 550.51 billion naira. However, between January and March 2023, Nigeria spent 874.13 billion naira on domestic debt servicing, while it spent 801.36 million dollar, which is 368.87 billion naira on external debt servicing, giving a total of 1.24 trillion naira. Now, the exchange rate for the DMO, we know that before the floating of the naira currency, we had a central bank fixed exchange rate. Now, we are seeing that the Debt Management Office also have an exchange rate where it was 164 naira to a dollar was used for the external debt servicing. Now, the International Monetary Fund recently said the federal government projected to spend 82% of its revenue on interest payment in 2023. Now, it means there is a fault in somewhere. Either we have not been consistently paying our debt service, and we are having an accumulated interest on the loans that we have taken, and now we are seeing a report coming from the International Monetary Fund that we might spend 82% of our revenue on interest payment in 2023. Now, not on debt payment, but on the interest of the debt. So it means it's going to take us longer to keep to settle our debt, and we know that we are having a consistent rise in our debt profile. Now, we are also seeing that the debt service is going to be a threat to us reducing our debt that we are still owing the World Bank and then China and other countries that we are still indebted to. Now, we are also seeing that amidst all we're seeing that the dollar rate to a naira is really affecting the economy. We are seeing inflation we are seeing tariff hiking because of it. Now, we are also seeing that vehicle duties and for those importing vehicles are also going high to 40%. Now, cost of importing vehicles, including mass transit units and other imported commodities, could increase by as much as 20% in the coming weeks, a direct consequence of last week's 40% increase in the foreign exchange rate of clearing operations. Now, the custom had in April 2022 migrated from the old version of ECOWAS CET tariff from between 2017 to 2021 to the new version 2022 to 2026, in line with the World Customs Organization 5 years review of the nomenclature. Now, we are seeing that the service reduced the duty for used and new imported vehicles to 20% as against the 35% usually paid. Custom adopted the new tariff with few adjustments in the extent CET as directed in the Federal Ministry of Finance, which included 15% NAC levy for used vehicles, bringing the duty back to 35%, while for new vehicles, a 20%, bringing the total duty to 40%. Now, we have our naira devaluating as a major factor. Now, we are hoping and believing that Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration know what they are doing when it comes to our foreign exchange as it stands, because we are seeing that the fluctuation of our naira value right now as it is affecting the market. We are seeing that it is affecting the hike in tariff price. We are now seeing that is affecting the excise duty for vehicle importation up to 40%, and we are also having massive inflation in the country. We are hoping and trusting that this floating is going to be for the best, and very soon our naira is going to gain much value to the dollar. Now, we are seeing that Lagos value chain, especially in agriculture and the production of rice, have increased. Now, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, said the Eco Rice value chain has created no fewer than 262,000 jobs. In line with a commitment to ensure food security and inclusive economic growth, Lagos State government has engaged both local and foreign investors on the need to invest in the state food value chain. Now we can drift a little bit away from Lagos and look at other states. We have states that are they produce a lot of products in large quantity. Why are these states sleeping on making sure that the value chain of food production have increased in their country? We're looking at down here in the plateau, we can talk about making finished goods and manufactured finished product. From our potatoes, we can go down to Nasarawa, we can go down to Benue, we can go down to Gombe, and we know these states specifically have food that they are majorly farming and having it in large quantity. So this is a means to say we need to wake up as a state and let's not leave Lagos alone to be having its value chain going high in agriculture, as every state in Nigeria have the potential to farm that good, that cash crop that is unique to it, to make sure that there is more revenue generated for the state. And we're not only going to stop at agriculture, but we can look forward even to natural minerals that are found in various states that can be produced to an industrial level to the extent where we will have state being dependent on what their state are generating as revenue, and will only have the allocations coming from the federal government as a plus. Now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic policies have been gaining a lot of what would I call it, popularity over the weeks ever since he came into power. We've seen that his economic policies precisely have been having welcome by people in Nigeria and even across the country. And we are having African Development Bank promising to support the vision of the president. Now we have Akinwumi Adesina, president of the African Development Bank, says his institution is ready to establish an entrepreneurship investment bank in Nigeria. Adesina said the establishment of such a bank is in alignment with President Bola Tinubu's plan and vision for young people in Nigeria. Adesina, who was also attending the New Global Financial Park Summit in France, spoke after he paid a visit to President Tinubu. African Development Bank president said he is impressed with the president's plan and vision for Nigeria, pledging his support to administration to achieve his goal. So we can see that the African Development Bank president is supporting the vision that the president has for Nigeria and is willing to support it, by the way, every step of the way. And the support will come in form of an entrepreneurship investment bank that will be available to everybody. And I believe that this is an avenue for young entrepreneurs and youths in Nigeria to be able to also benefit from the African Development Bank directly, since it is in line with the economic policy of our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I'll be closing today by saying congratulations to Dr. Muta Adams, the Financial Officer of Zenith Bank, for winning Africa's Financial Officer of the Year award. Keep a date with me next week.